What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the second installment of the 2012 KX250F build. In the last video you saw me tear down the bike right to the frame, and I got the engine on the bench there now, so in this video I'm going to tear the top end down of the engine and see exactly what's wrong with that. I didn't open it up at all, but I couldn't help but peek inside the exhaust and the intake ports, and honestly guys, it's not looking good, so I'm going to take the head off now and probably the cylinder and see what's going on with that. Alright guys, so here we have the engine on the bench, and I don't know if you'll be able to see in there, but I was looking inside the intake there, and I'll see if I can zoom in here. So if it'll focus. So it might be tough to see there guys, but the valve guide is smashed there, so, and that's on all four of the valves, so that's not good. So I'm going to go ahead and start cracking this open and seeing what the damage exactly is. Alright guys, so with these engines you can actually take the valve guides out, you can press them out. If the cast part of this head is not damaged, we can push the old valve guides out and put new ones in. So I'm going to take the head cover off and see what's going on inside there. So it appears that we're pretty well like halfway out on timing here. So my main concern is taking off these cam bridges here and getting the timing chain off, all that, and then looking at the journals. So if the journals are all scored and scraped, then that's not good. I'll have to go from there. But if it's just the valve guides that need to be pushed out and put new ones in, then that's not so bad. But I'll take this bridge off, or actually first I'll take the chain tensioner out and see if I can get the chain off, and then I'll start taking the bridge out. So obviously putting the engine in top dead center is impossible for this because it's locked up, so I'm just gonna have to take the tensioner out, take the chain off, take the cam bridge out, and just go from there. So we're all loosened up, so that's good. So we'll take all these out. So definitely pay attention to how these come out, guys. For some reason, I don't know if this is OEM or not, but this longer one was in the on the exhaust side on the far left. Sometimes these can be a headache, you gotta wiggle them out. And there's usually thrust clips in here, so I'll show you. Got to be mindful of those when you're taking these apart, especially if you're doing a valve set on these, because you don't want them going down in here. So these are easy enough to get out. You just, the chain's loose, so you just pull them out, and then you just tilt the gear, and then it should come right out for you. So we can just let the chain drop. Usually you want to, if you're doing a valve lash or something like that, you want to keep it up because sometimes it can slip off that gear on the bottom. But in this case, we don't need that. So I'm looking at these journals here, guys, and I'm actually okay with this. There's nothing serious going on here. There's a little bit of wear in these ones, but this is where these ball bearings ride in. So the outer race of this bearing goes in here. So that shouldn't hurt anything there. And on this side where there's no ball bearings at all, this looks perfectly clean. So I think we got away with this part. But now I gotta take all these bolts out and these two little bolts here and see if I can get this head off, and then I can have a look at what's going on in there for valve damage. I don't usually like using air on these, but it's going to be way too difficult to use a breaker bar or whatever on the bench. Air always wins. You know, again, you want to be careful taking these out, because sometimes these bolts are different lengths. So make note of which ones come out of where. It's not hard to tell. These are all dirty, so they came out the outside. And these ones here are a lot cleaner looking, and they're oily. But they're all the same size, it looks like, so that one is anyways. Yeah, these are all about the same size. But you just want to make sure when you take them out. Now there's going to be a couple washers left in here, so yeah, you just grab a magnet and take them out. So now, this actually just kind of started coming off by itself. That's not a usual thing, so we'll get this right off of there. There goes my bucket. And shim. Those usually don't fall out like that, so I'll keep the head over here for now. And I can tell you right now, that is really bad. Holy. Alright guys, so check this out. I thought my 04 CRF250 I did was bad, but we definitely have a new champion here. So that head is completely toast. So you can see all the damage here. That's all bent. Beat everything up around here. This is crazy how beat up that is. I was told by the seller that the bike just kind of shut down. His buddy was riding it. It kind of just shut down, but that's not what happened. I don't know how many hills you have to push the bike down trying to bump start it to make the piston look like that, but that piston was beating around in there for a long time. It's almost like they maybe drug it behind a truck trying to start it or something like that, but that's not just failed and shut down. That was definitely tried to bump start quite a bit. There's a big hole here. So this top end is completely toast. So I'll have to source that out see how much that's going to cost to fix, and then go from there with the build, see how much it's going to cost, if it's even worth doing. So might as well continue, take this cylinder off, and then we can kind of get a better look down in there. Alright guys, so obviously the top end is complete trash on this engine, so because it went so quickly, usually I do top and bottom end videos, but it went so fast, I'm very interested to see what that bottom end looks like, so I'm going to start digging into that now, and we'll tear that down and get the cases split. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I took the shifter off. I was going to replace this shifter, I was thinking about it, but it's in decent shape, so this might have just became a budget build, so we'll see about that. Next is going to be this sensor. This is going to tell the CDI that the bike is in gear, and it just usually just bumps the idle just a tiny little bit up to compensate for the friction of the clutch. So that's what that does there. So I'll just take this off, and then I'll move on to this cover here. So now it's time to remove the flywheel. There's a ton of metal in here, of course, so you can see all that. So what I'm going by here is I'm going to take this bottom end apart, and if the cases are still good, then it's still possible I can do this build. But if I got to start buying cases and top ends, like full top ends and stuff like that, it might not be worth it for me to build it, just because I can only get so much money for this bike when it's rebuilt like this. So if it's a certain threshold, I'll try and figure it out the best I can. But if the cases are done and it's going to be like thousands of dollars to fix just the engine, then the rest of the bike's not worth doing, because then I'll be losing a ton of money. So I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to take this flywheel off, and this is a 14 mil nut, and I have the puller over there on the bench, and then we'll just pull that flywheel off. So there's no washer with it. I'll definitely double check that. So on these pullers, the Motion Pro one, you're going to see M28. That means 28 millimeters here. The thread pitch is 1.0, and RH is going to mean right hand thread, so that's just regular thread. Some of these pullers are left hand thread. So you can use whatever. You can use a ratchet or whatever. I use an impact. I find the hammering of the impact loosens these a little better. I've found pulling flywheels in the past with a ratchet or a breaker bar, you load up so much energy, and when it breaks, like I've smashed my knuckles off benches and stuff like that. I find it much easier with an impact. So just like that, comes off, and then you just take your tool off, and you're done. You got all this exposed. Now you can take the timing chain out. This piece here is just kind of just to guide the timing chain, keep it on the gear there. Yeah, and this is just another chain slider here. Alright guys, I got it flipped around here. I'm going to get this clutch cover off here now. So that's easy enough. You just take all the bolts out and then pop the cover off. Obviously there's no oil in there. So now you do the outer clutch cover, but first I think I'm going to take that oil filter out and just kind of see. Curious to see what that looks like. Oops. So surprisingly, guys, this oil filter doesn't look bad. So I'll put the bolts back in there loosely. Now I'll just take the rest of them out. So I've mentioned in other videos, guys use templates with cardboard and whatnot to keep track of these bolts, but it really doesn't matter which hole the bolt goes in, just as long as there's about, when you put the bolt in, like obviously that's not right, so if you put this bolt in, that's not right either. So you try a longer one. That's getting there. And usually you have about that much showing. This much to this much. And it's usually good. So it's not hard to tell where the bolt goes. But I mean, by all means do whatever you want to keep track of everything. So I'll see if this will break away. Okay, yeah, so these bolts aren't holding it on. The outer clutch cover should come right off. Now, on a lot of these bikes, you gotta watch because sometimes there's a washer right there. It's not on this one. I'll double check, make sure there's not supposed to be one there. But so now you've got everything exposed here. So now you want to take the clutch off. That's the next thing to come off. So these will be 10 mils and you just take everything out. You can take them out in increments in a star pattern. It's kind of what I do, just go little bits at a time and then the whole thing should slide out. So this is the kind of stuff you got to watch out for too. When I took the push rod out of there was this ball bearing in there. So you really got to watch for stuff like that when you're taking these apart. So it's push rod first, and then the ball bearing. And this push rod looks identical on either end, so I don't think it matters which way it goes in. So next is going to be the master clutch nut. So I have a set of tusk holders for this, and so you click the tusk holders on and then you just use an impact and take that off. I'm gonna have to check too and make sure there's not supposed to be a lock washer there. Usually there's a lock washer on these. Alright guys, so I got the tusk tools on here. So this should hold it. And usually an electric impact will take it off. But we'll see. Just like that, the master clutch nut comes off. This seems to be kind of a lock nut setup, so there may not be a need for a lock washer, but I'll definitely take a look for one in the parts manual. So now you take the inner basket out, and almost always, guys, there's a washer behind it. So just make mind of that. And then I'm going to take this outer basket off. And then I'm going to set all this down on the bench. And I'm going to shut the camera off because I got a bunch of stuff here I need to bag and tag. And also there's a needle bearing and then a collar. Alright guys, so now we're ready to take the rest of this apart. So usually what I do, I'll take this spring out just because it's loaded up and just don't want it like popping out. You wanna control the released energy instead of it doing it by itself. So you take that out. Usually it's just a little, that hooks in behind this little keeper here. And I'm not sure about these ones, but I know on a lot of Hondas there's a little mark, and you got to time it up with the another mark. It's hard to see it, but this Kickstarter is timed properly. There's a little dot right there, a little punch mark. That needs to be lined up with another one right behind it, but you can't see it right now. But that Kickstarter's in proper time there. So this should just pull out like this. I usually keep those two together, and I'll probably pull that off after and keep it with those. But next I'm going to try and pull this off. So if I need to, I'll use my clutch holding tool, but sometimes you can just pull the piston out and just hang on to well, what's left of it, hang on to that and take it out. Okay guys, so I went back and double checked. I forgot that this is a left hand thread, so you have to loosen it off by tightening it. So I was hitting it the other way with the impact, so hopefully that didn't over tighten it. So I had to get the clutch basket back out because it's easier to jam this gear up. And then I'll try and hit it with the impact. So there it is, guys. Don't make that same mistake. Always double check your service manual. I did know that, I just forgot. So there's your primary drive gear out. So now take my clutch stuff and put that away again. Then I can move on to the rest of this stuff here. Alright guys, so the rest of this, there's really nothing to it. Like, there's just a snap ring right here holding this gear on, the idler gear. Just a couple of 8mm bolts and nuts holding the shifter in. The shifter you should be able to just pull straight out. So it's pretty straightforward, so I'm just gonna time lapse the rest of this and take all this stuff out. Alright guys, so I got it up on a bench in a position where I can split the cases, but first I have to pull all the case bolts out. It's super important that you go through this 2-3 times, however many times it takes, to make sure you've got them all. Note there's a couple in here at least, and you want to take a good look, make sure there's no more. But there's at least like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at least 10 around the outside. And I don't know if there's any in here, but you want to make sure you get all that pulled out before you try and split the case, because if you don't do that, of course, you're going to crack your cases as you try and pull them apart if there's something in there still that shouldn't be. So you want to flip it the other way too, just to make sure that there's no other bolts on the other side. Usually there isn't, but you just want to double check. And then I'll set the splitter up, and then I'll pull the cases apart. Alright, so I've got my splitter set up here. So all you do is you just kind of put these threaded rods in the holes over the splitter, and then I've got some washers and nuts over them, and you kind of snug them tight, and then that's going to push on the crankcase on the end of the crank, the threads on the crank, and that's going to push down, and it's going to pull the cases apart. So I do this with an impact, and when you do it with an impact, you want to go nice and easy. And you just tension it up a little bit. 4 strokes are usually better. 2 strokes, don't be alarmed on a 2-stroke case. If you're putting a lot of pressure and you're working it a lot, definitely double check that you've got all your bolts out, but 2 strokes are a lot harder to split. Usually a 4-stroke will come apart a little easier. So it's definitely starting to come apart over here, but it's not over here. That's normal. Sometimes it can hang up on this piece here. So you just want to, you can either smack up like this, or you can smack down over here. And that'll sometimes split it over here, which it just did. So I can tell everything seems to be going okay. But you always want to double check a few times as you go. You want to split it a little more, double check everything's good, and then keep going in increments. There we go. Just try and lift it even if you can. Pretty sure it's almost there. This is not something you want to rush, so definitely take your time. So hopefully that's free there. call that good and free. So I'm gonna take the tool off. So when I flip it with the tool on, it kind of rests on here and it falls all over the place. So I'm going to try and take the tool off first this time. Get that out of the way. Then I can just lift the case off and lay it flat on the bench. There's probably going to be little washers and stuff in here. That's normal, so you want to watch for them. So there doesn't seem to be any washers here, which is quite strange. Maybe they're on the other side there. Usually some get stuck in there when you take them off or whatever. That's it, guys. The cases are all split now. That's supposed to be in there. So there you have it, guys. So this bike must have shut down, and for whatever reason, I don't know what the primary reason was, but I don't think a piston gets like this unless you, I don't know, drag it with a truck. Drag the bike with a truck, trying to bump start it with a truck or a side by side or something like that. This went around, I don't know how many times inside that cylinder, and just beat it to death. So you can see the pieces of the skirt and everything left in here. I'm gonna pull all this stuff out. The cases don't look bad, so that's good news. So I'm gonna get this right down to the cases. I'm not gonna take the bearings out in this video because I don't even know if I'm gonna be doing that. So we'll see what the build cost is gonna be. But I'm gonna take the crank out, and I'll take these out, put them in a bag, and then we'll have a look at the cases, make sure they're not all beat up and cracked. Alright guys, there you go. So we're torn right down to the cases. There's definitely still some shrapnel in here, but there's no cracking, breaking, any holes, anything like that. These are 100% good to use again. There's a couple little burrs here and there, nothing I can't buff out. So these cases are good to go, so that's good news. I definitely have to get on the internet and find another piston and top end and all that. This piston is about the worst I've ever seen. So I'm thinking this was really desperately tried to bump start, and it just went beating around the cylinder so many times that it just looks like this. So the other cases, same deal, good to go. So I'm definitely gonna have to clean these out and research some parts on the internet there and see what I can find. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. So if you want to see the rest of the build, you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you like this video, and as always guys, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.